covered a lot of RPGs here on Nostalgia Dive, and many have deserved the fame they've achieved in their own right, either through sheer gameplay and story, or just reaching classic cult status. With the game I am presenting to you today, I would say it's not very easy to find a game that initially hit that cult status as early in its life as Earthbound did. Sure, nowadays everyone and their mother has heard of Ness, Porky, and Gigas, but I feel the game still has, to this day, avoided the large-scale fame that I believe it deserves. This, of course, could be the impossibly difficult task of obtaining a copy of this game, or it could be because of its somewhat slow-paced and somewhat grindy type of RPG formula that has greatly been improved since it's been out. The reasons for its lack of fame at the time, all in all, don't matter for this video's sake, but it's something that astounds me about this excellent piece of media. Welcome to Nostalgia Dive. If you're new here, I like to talk about games from my childhood all the way up to my young adult life. I like to cover a little bit about its development, gameplay and mechanics, the story when able, and I like to talk about how I feel about these games now in my current adult, putting that lightly, life. Today we'll be covering probably one of, if not the first RPG I ever played, this of course being Earthbound, or if you live not in the United Hellscape of America, Mother 2. So please stay a while and listen to me rant about Earthbound. Before we start, I would like to mention that this video will have flashing lights, so if you or your homie sitting right next to you can potentially be bothered by that, then I'd steer clear of this video. First off, of course, we will be talking about the creation and development of Earthbound. So I like to mainly stick to order of release here when it comes to game series here on Nostalgia Dive. That way, there is a semi-consistent flow for you all to follow, but I never really played Earthbound's prequel, Mother 1. I did try to play it on the Switch Online service, but I couldn't for the life of me keep interested. I'm not sure if it was because it was an older game or what, but to give you an idea of Mother, it plays almost exactly like Earthbound. Even some of the characters and areas give you the same vibe. If you have a Nintendo Switch and you have the Nintendo Online service, I recommend trying it out. That game and this one will have similar stories, so I don't think you're missing out on anything interesting. So yeah, anyways, we can actually talk about Earthbound. Earthbound, or Mother 2, was written by its original creator, Shigesato Itoi. Up to this point, Itoi had led up a pretty interesting life in Nintendo. Originally, he started as a marketing guy and had built a steady and fair partnership with Mr. Miyamoto and the late Satoru Iwata. The dev teams from the original Mother actually returned to create its sequel. These teams would be from two companies, Ape Inc. and HAL Yeah, that word. Earthbound would take in total around 5 years between these companies. Unfortunately, due to this length, Earthbound had faced cancellation multiple times. I couldn't imagine a world where we didn't get this gem. This is when we got our beloved programmer, Mr. Iwata, on the case. Itoi stated that once Mr. Iwata got on the project, it resolved a lot of the issues with the game's creation. It also helped that apparently these teams would spend bi-weekly visits in the HAL office where they got to experience the constant majesty of Mount Fuji. Damn, if I had an office like that where I got to see awesome scenery, you're damn right I'm getting back to work fully recharged. Itoi himself believes that the Mother series was built on a sort of reckless wildness. This was really what was able to help the team find new ways to break the mold from the standard confines of the RPG medium. Itoi's biggest ideas were to make the players feel the emotions alongside these characters. Not only that, but the game was meant to have a more casual feel. Originally, the game was written in the Kana script. This was actually to make the conversations feel as natural and as casual as possible throughout the entire game. Hell, even the characters you meet throughout the game are modeled around actual people and the ways that they would present themselves. One interesting piece that I have pulled from other retrospectives and my own research online is the design of Gigas. Itoi recalls its creation was based off of traumatic experience from when he was young, and while I can relate, and I am sure everyone who got to experience Gigas for the first time playing themselves, you feel that unsettling nature Gigas has. It only makes sense that we as humans are uncomfortable with the uncanny or the unnatural. Another interesting aspect of the game's design was Earthbound was planned to fit on a measly 8 megabyte cartridge. Interestingly enough, this would be the same file size as what you would find on your typical PlayStation 2 memory card. This obviously wasn't going to work with the badass odometer style HP counter, the game's delivery service, or even the bicycle that you would get later on. No, this game had to be stored on a 24 megabit storage, and at the time was quite a large amount of disk space, cartridge space, whatever. There was also a really cool anti-piracy built into the game that would create massive amounts of enemies compared to the normal game. Not only this, but right before the end of the game, your game resets and deletes your save file. Absolutely insane. But that was just part of all the interesting design that this game really had. There is a ton more, obviously, but I mainly wanted to cover the parts that I really thought were cool. Earthbound would release as Mother 2 in 1994, with the localized Earthbound version in North America releasing the same year. With that out of the way, we can talk about Earthbound's gameplay and mechanics. Earthbound, at surface level, is fairly typical when it comes to most RPG systems that you have played before, starting with a party system where you would primarily control a group of kids on their journey. When you go along your journey, you of course collect XP. This obviously will level your party up, and once you do, it will level up each character's individual stats. Stats that you'll see here will be offense, defense, max HP, max psychic points or PP, IQ, guts, and vitality. Outside of this, your party will also learn special abilities at certain levels. Most of these that you acquire will be based on who is getting them. For example, the character Paula will get you standard fire, ice, and lightning type abilities. Other characters will have special moves like Ness, who can get things like Flash or Life Up. Unlike your dad's favorite RPG with random encounters, you will actually see the monsters throughout the game as you go along your adventure. This will allow you the chance, of course, to avoid them or look out for specific monsters that you want to fight. One of my favorite aspects about this is the enemy variety for its time. You can go from fighting crows
He said it!
to fighting a scalding hot McDonald's coffee cup, to even fighting interdimensional space entities. Another cool aspect of this game is that you will notice right away that Earthbound doesn't have an overworld map like your typical RPG of its time. The world as you experience it is seamless with very limited transition scenes. Traversing the world, you will have multiple ways to do so, walking for a while and then moving up progressively to, say, a bike or even teleportation much later on. When entering combat, you will see a group of enemies as well as your own party's health pools and psychic pools. Depending on the character, you can have different ways of attacking these enemies. You have the classical smacking them around until they fall, or you can use different psi abilities. In this game, the setting is modern, so magic isn't really a thing. It's mostly made up of psychic or special abilities that the characters and enemies do. Once an enemy is defeated, you will get your XP and sometimes items. The big thing here is you don't get money directly. At certain locations in various towns, you will find telephones. These, of course, allow you to make calls out, and one of the people is your dad. Your dad actually does quite a bit here for you, like save your game. Another big thing that your dad will do for you is deposit money into a checking account that you can withdraw from. Every time you defeat a creature, he will deposit an amount into this account that you can go and pull out, which will allow you to buy various weapons and armor throughout the game. These towns will have many explorable locations for you to talk to all kinds of strange and funny characters. This, of course, we will cover a little bit more in the next section. The next thing I wanted to mention real quick is Earthbound's menus. The main one you will be seeing is your pause menu. I'd like to call it more of a context menu or something along those lines, which just kind of lists a few commands. It also lists your money and party's HP and PP. Here you will see options to look at your gear, the status menu of your party, and the menu for all of your items. Inventory space in this game is limited, so you have to use the game's Amazon service to deliver and pick up all your stuff to be stored somewhere else. This is also done on the phone via calling your sister, who somehow has gotten a part-time job at the Amazon delivery service. Honestly, that's probably the main systems you will face while you spend time here in Eagleland. Yes, the game world is Eagleland. I will now move on to the story, so here's your spoiler for Earthbound's story. If you want to experience this game's story on your own first, skip ahead to the goods and bads section or pause the video and come back. I'll still be here, at least I think so anyway. When you start a new game for Earthbound, you get taken to a screen where you must name your party, your dog, your favorite food, and your favorite thing to do. Now, if this was a standard personal playthrough, I would name them what I would normally do, but for the sake of not confusing you guys, these characters will be their canonical names. Ness, our main character, then we have Paula, Jeff, and Pooh. You also name your dog, his name is King. You name your favorite food, which for Ness is steak, and then you name your favorite thing. For Ness, that's rockin'. Now, you may ask what the importance of your food or your favorite thing to do is. Well, your favorite thing to do is what Ness's special moves will be called when you get them. Your favorite food is simply just food prepared by your mother when you go and visit her in your home, which is really just flavor text. So once we name all of our junk, we move on to the beginnings of the game. We first get a panning shot of a sleepy town known as Onett, or Onett? Onett? I think it's going to be Onett. When we see a shot of Ness sleeping in his bed before we hear a large crash from outside. Quickly, we go out and talk to our mother, who tells us that if we are going to go outside, then we need to go ahead and put on some clothes. This is when we sport the legendary Ness drip, a red ball cap, shorts, and a striped shirt. Making our way up the cliffside, we come across a police barricade. Apparently, a meteor has landed nearby, and our friend Porky tells us to go back home. He will tell us all about it in the morning. We do so, but just as we are getting comfortable in our bed, again, someone starts banging on the front door frantically. When we see who it is, it's Porky. Apparently, he took his brother up to the meteor and then they got separated. So, of course, being the neighborly kind of guy we are, we get dressed all over again, this time grabbing our bat and our dog to help us out. Make our way up to the meteor again, this time the one time are gone and we find Porky's brother. We learned that Porky actually got scared and ran off. Funny enough, right before we got to the meteor, our dog did as well. Can't really find good help these days. We grab Porky's brother Picky and we begin our way back home. But then we hear a buzzing noise coming from the meteor. The bee that comes out of this is Buzz Buzz. We actually get lore dumped heavy by this talking bug. We learn that Buzz Buzz is a hero from 10 years in the future, now turned bug, who has come to warn Ness that an evil entity known as Gigas rules the planet. Buzz Buzz tells Ness that 4 children are the ones destined to stop this evil, 3 boys and a girl. Buzz Buzz believes that Ness is one of these children. We actually move down from the mountain to take Porky and his brother back home, and we must fight a Starman, an alien, and one of Gigas' minions. Buzz Buzz does most of the heavy lifting in this fight, and we get to Porky's house. Unfortunately, their mom decides to swat Buzz Buzz down, and then he tells us the rest of what we must do. Ness must go on a journey to find sanctuaries, places that contain the 8 melodies which we must gather to unite our powers with the Earth and stop Gigas. Right after this, we begin our journey. None of our friends at this point, and even our trusty companion, take up this journey with us. We actually must find these other children and seek their help as well. We first make our way to the main town of Onett. We grab ourselves a map and we start wandering around town, talking to who we can about our first steps. We soon learn that a gang has been causing problems around town known as the Sharks. Their leader, Frank, also apparently hangs out in the area called the Giant Steps. This is our first sanctuary location, so we level up some and we go and take on Frank. We easily take care of him and his robot, and he tells us of the Giant Steps location and how to get there. We make our way across town, grab the key to the Giant Step from the mayor, and we head on to a series of caves, making our way through all these rats and ants that we find in the sanctuary. Soon after, we come across the Sanctuary Guardian. You will find these protecting all sanctuary locations across Eagle Land. For this one, we must battle the Titanic Ant. For those of you who may be in the know, the song that plays when you fight these guardians is the same song that plays in those What memes. Defeating the ant, we actually enter the Giant Step. These locations seem completely peaceful areas where Ness is most in tune with the Earth, as he will often get flashes of memories of growing up or spending time with his family. When we leave Giant Step, the 5-0 shows up and tells us that we broke the rules by entering the area, as there was a keep out sign the whole time. The coppers tell us to come to the police station since we are in big trouble. Heading over there, we find a police captain Strong. He tells us if he wants to get to the next town, Tucson, then we actually have to fight his best men, including himself. This is rather easy if you've spent time to get Ness's special ability rockin'. Defeating Strong and his boys, he allows us to head to the town of Tucson. This place is much bigger compared to Onett, and we actually wander around for some time, visiting to the department store, looking at bikes to ride around, and so on. When we talk to the locals, it seems that someone has kidnapped Paula. Obviously, as you all know, this is one of our party members that we named, so you can assume that she's important. Not only is she important to us, but it seems that she is important to the actual town, as she helps run the preschool on the east side of Tucson. This is where her parents live. When we talk to the dad, he panics as Paula is nowhere to be found. Paula's dad, as well as some other locals, believe that she was kidnapped by Everdread, a shady man who controls the area in Tucson known as Berglund Park. Here you can actually shop around a bit and do so, but at the end of the park, you initiate battle with Everdread. Quickly defeating him, he tells us Paula has been kidnapped by a group known as the Cult of Happy Happyism. When we arrive at this place, everything has been painted blue. The people, the buildings, and yes, even the cow. I know most of you probably already know, but this is believed to be inspiration for this cult is a notorious cult known as Shamrikyo. who unfortunately committed one of Japan's deadliest domestic terrorist events in its known history when they released sarin gas, which would kill 8 people and harm up to 500 or more. Dark stuff. The connection most people make is that they sport blue robes, which is similar to what the happyism people wear. If you want to learn more about this cult, there are hundreds of videos that cover them. When we get to the town, we quickly find Paula's location, but without the key, we can't really do anything. The leader of the happy cult, Mr. Carpenter, has the key. Paula gives us the Franklin badge, which helps us in taking him on, so we leave the jail, only to find our friend Porky just outside. Porky seems to have a high rank in the cult, as he was the one that captured Paula. He sends 2 cultists and a bird at us as he escapes. Making our way back to the main area of the Happy Village, we enter the cult's HQ, where the cult looks to be dancing and praying. When we make our way into the next room, we confront Mr. Carpenter. He actually stands in front of a statue, which you have the chance of seeing once before. When we confront Carpenter, he will fire off lightning at us. This is all ineffective, as the Franklin badge stops us from getting injured by it. Once we defeat him, we learn the statue, known as the Mani Mani statue, influenced Carpenter to create this cult. He apologizes and gives us the key to free Paula, and so we do so. Paula joins our party, and we must do one more thing here in Happy Village. There's a sanctuary location known as Lilliput Steps. Battling through this cave with Paula, we learn 2 things. Paula starts at level 1, and the other thing is that she leans more on the psionic side. When you get Paula leveled up later in the game, she can become a monster against enemies, being able to cast things like fire, ice, and lightning, which you find out each have their own kind of mechanical ability. Fire can damage an entire row of enemies, ice can do high damage to a singular enemy, and lightning can deal high damage at random to multiple enemies. However, it has a pretty good chance of failing. When we get through the cave to the second sanctuary, we must fight the next guardian, Mondo Mole. We get a second melody here, and we then make our way back to Tucson. When we try to move on to the next town, it seems the tunnel is overrun with ghosts, so we need to find an alternate way of getting there. When we speak to Everdread after coming back, he gives us a huge wad of cash. It looks to be a special item, so we continue to move around town to see what we can do to spend on it. We enter the Chaos Theater, a place where a music group, the Runaway Five, seem to have gotten themselves into a debt with the owner. Putting 2 and 2 together, we give the wad to the owner, and the group tells us that they can actually take us to the next town in their tour bus. The ghosts ignore the group as they drive through the tunnel, and we arrive at the rather gloomy town of Threed. Arriving at Threed, the Runaway Five drive on to the next town over. When we speak around town, it seems the place has been haunted by ghosts, zombies, and haunted puppets from one of the Goosebumps books. I'll mention here, since I didn't mention it in gameplay, some creatures will give you status effects, and some can absolutely destroy you while you wander around Earthbound. This area is where you will start to see a lot of these effects. You might have seen one prior to this spot, but this is where the game will give you one of these effects almost every battle. Some of these effects cannot be removed by normal means. For example, here in Threed will be the first time that you are possessed by a tiny ghost. It is a little ghost that will float around you while you walk around, but in battle, it will try to damage party members and even sometimes will direct a party member's attack to another party member. The only effective way of taking care of this is to walk over to the hospital and talk to the blue-haired man, as he takes care of all these strange effects that normal medicine or Ness's healing ability can't take care of. Anyway, it seems that the town is trying to get rid of the undead population that has been bothering them. When we wander around, we see a shady woman run into the hotel, and so we follow her in. When we confront her in the back room, she ambushes Ness and Paula with some other creatures, and we are then trapped in some sort of dungeon. When we try the door, of course it is locked, but Paula has an idea. She says that she will reach out to a friend to come and get us. A friend we haven't met yet. His name is Jeff. Again, if you recall the beginning, this is another party member. When she sends out the message, it is reached a boy in the faraway place known as Winters in a boarding school. This is actually when we part ways with Ness and Paula for a bit, and we must take control of Jeff as he makes his way out of the boarding school and to get to his newly contacted friends. With the help of Jeff's friend Tony, we hop the fence and we recruit a little monkey to help us along the way. This monkey is known as Bubble Monkey. He loves gum, and he will help us do a few things. He actually helps us cross a lake with Kessie, a Loch Ness monster, and then we find ourselves going through a dungeon of Brick Road, the Dungeon Maker. As we make our way there, we learn that Dr. Ardonuts has a Skyrunner which could help us get to Ness and Paula. We also find out in Jeff's intro that Dr. Ardonuts is also Jeff's father. When we get to a place that is literally just Stonehenge, Bubble Monkey leaves us behind to have a date with a girl monkey, and we find ourselves on our own for a moment. Not for very long though, as just down the path we find Artonuts' lab. We then talk to Jeff's dad for a moment, to which we find out has been 10 years since they had last seen each other. It seems the doctor is very uncaring about his estranged son appearing, but hands him over the keys to the Skyrunner anyway. We get a longer traveling sequence through the skies of Eagle Land before Jeff arrives in Threed. Scanning for his new friends, he finds them and then just crashes the Skyrunner through the ground, blowing it up in the process. While we may be down one Skyrunner, we are up one party member, Jeff. Jeff, as a party member, is hit or miss when it comes to his effectiveness. At first, he can damage enemies along with the best of Ness and Paula, but he quickly falls off damage-wise later in the game. Outside of this, he can be rather handy. Sometimes you will come across broken objects, and if Jeff's IQ is high enough, he will fix these items overnight while you sleep. Sometimes this can be a temporary use item like a defense spray, or you can sometimes find weapons that he will then fix up and be able to use to help him continue to scale damage-wise with the rest of the gang. Jeff can use items that he would only be able to use. This is usually in the form of bottle rockets. Most places, including Threed, will have some kind of shady businessman that will allow you to buy the rockets from them. The big rockets, even into the late game, can do quite a bit of damage. I save them a lot of the time for the bosses and the ever-challenging guardians of each sanctuary location. Outside of these things, that's really all that Jeff will bring to the table. If you don't keep him constantly updated with equipment, he can really fall behind the rest of the party. With Jeff in our party, we actually managed to use his broken key machine to get out of the locked room. In doing so, we are able to make our way back up to Threed. The next thing we need to do here is to have to get the zombies out of our way that are blocking the access to Threed's sanctuary area. Before we can find out how to take care of them, we fight a boss in Threed known as the Boogie Tent. After dealing it rather easily with our new party member, we coincidentally get a call from Apple Kid about an invention known as zombie paper. I skipped over him earlier, but Apple Kid is someone you invest some money into earlier into the game to get a pencil eraser. Not one that you find at the tip of your pencil, but it erases pencils. You find these pencil statues throughout the game, but this zombie paper Apple Kid delivers to you will attract zombies to wherever you place it at. We place it down and manage to trap all the zombies overnight, allowing us access to the place known as Grapefruit Falls. When we arrive here, we discover a town known as Saturn Valley, a place where Mr. Saturns exclusively live. This place is rather strange, but most services you get in other towns are free here. These guys are just peaceful little dudes that want to live their peaceful little huts where the ladders don't make any sense. We actually find out from these dudes that there's a lot more of them, but they have been kidnapped by Master Belch, who works in his factory. To get there, we learn the secret password from one of these guys, and we have to go behind a waterfall. The password, however, is to just wait, and I'm not joking. You must wait 3 real-life minutes, and the puke on the floor will let you in. We infiltrate the base of ladders and enemies, and we confront Master Belch. In doing so, we defeat him, and we free the Mr. Saturns, and actually are allowed to go through the Milky Well. This place is the next sanctuary we must go through to get our third melody. Once we do so, it seems the issues with Threed are solved, and we can move on to Fourside. To do so, we hop on a bus and begin our journey over there. The traffic forces us to stop, and we find ourselves in a rather unforgiving desert. This place has its drawbacks and its advantages. First, the enemies here can be tough. There is a sphere here that can actually explode when it dies Voltorb style and deals mortal damage to your entire party if you're not prepared. Enemy difficulty aside, you will also have to deal with the heat of the desert. Your party can have a chance of getting sunstroke, which will damage your HP over time. Luckily, Ness's healing seal will heal the status, but your PP is very limited. Jesus Christ. One good thing about this place is on the other side of the desert, you can sleep here for free. Another good thing about this place, so long as you can avoid the orbs, is there is another creature here known as the Criminal Caterpillar. He will give you massive XP compared to everyone else in this area, and he's not difficult whatsoever. This playthrough, I was only able to find one much later, which by that point I had actually found a better spot to grind. One thing to mention here is that there is a gold miner here. Feed him food. It will be very important later. When we get to the other side of the desert, we actually arrive in Fourside. Congrats! I'd say you've made it about halfway through the story. Wandering around Fourside, it is a huge town, bigger than any town you have been to yet. You will actually come across the Runaway 5 once more in Dead. This, of course, can be resolved by paying the manager off, but before we do that, we must visit the Monotoli building. When we enter, we are only able to enter one floor. We actually find Porky, our old friend from Onett here. Apparently, he has been working alongside Mayor Geldergaard Monotoli in day-to-day life here in Fourside. Apparently, the mayor has been corrupted by the Mani Mani statue that was controlling the guy in Happy Happy Village. Porky kicks out Ness and the party, and so we must find the means to help the Runaway 5, and it seems the mayor as well. When we go back to the desert, our friend we gave food to has been busy mining into some caves. He seems to have been distressed as it seems 5 moles have taken residence inside the cave. After going through the maze below, we defeat the moles and the miner gives us a diamond. Presenting it to the manager and Forsyth, the Runaway 5 are free once more. We get a special song with them and a female singer known as Venus. Once the show's over, the department store is actually open, so we head over and the power cuts out. Paula is then kidnapped. Over the intercom, we are spoken to directly by the obvious kidnapper, and so we must make our way through the department store to the top floor. I'm going to be honest with you guys, this part almost made me give up Earthbound as far as making this video goes. I seem to have caught myself in an endless loop of Jeff dying and not being able to continue through the department store as Ness. I would have to go back to the hospital and spend around $150 to revive him and then come back only for the annoying enemies to respawn and kill Jeff again. It took me around 15 to 20 times going through this department store to be able to reach the last office. I would say if you're having trouble with this spot, please make sure to watch the status effects that you can get here, specifically the guitar enemy, as he does quite a bit of lightning damage. After getting to the top of the store, we confront the kidnapper. We defeat him quickly and realize Paula is no longer here and has been taken to Mr. Monotoli. We must then take a little side detour to the cafe here inside town. We find Everdred wounded in the alley. This is the man that gave us the wad of bills in Tucson and watches over Berglund Park. He tells us that he stole the Mani Mani statue from Mr. Carpenter and that Monotoli stole it from him. Everdred tries to tell us to check the cabinets behind the counter in the cafe, and when we do so, we are transported to Forsyth's neon opposite, Moonside. Moonside is a little different to traverse. You actually must talk to different guys and teleport around to get to where you need to go. When you get to the front of the Monotoli building, you actually come across the Mani Mani statue and it starts a battle. Destroying the statue, Moonside actually fades away. Apparently, the Mani Mani statue was some kind of remote illusion device that caused Ness and Co. to hallucinate Moonside, and we are now back under the cafe in a warehouse. Apple Kid calls us once more, and we are given a yogurt dispenser. At first, I had no idea what the use of this was until right after when a woman runs up to you and says she is looking for a trout yogurt dispenser. Brother, ugh. Apple Kid has sent it through the neglected class of Amazon and left it in the desert. So we go back there only to find a monkey maze. A maze where you have to give monkeys items that they are requesting. I spent quite a bit of time doing this part, but it's worth it for sure. When you get to the end of the maze, you actually find Talarama, who teaches us the teleport ability to go anywhere we have been prior. We just need to make sure we have room to charge up. He also has the yogurt machine, which we take to the maid out front of the Monotoli building. This actually allows us to access the building again once more, and where we fight our way through a series of robots until we get to Clumsy Robot. Clumsy Robot is a tiny robot that does massive damage. It almost wiped Ness and Jeff when I played, but lo and behold, the Runaway 5 come and turn the robot's switch off on its back. If only it was that easy every time. We quickly enter Monotoli's office where we find Monotoli and finally Paula once again. Paula tells us to give him a chance, and it seems that the Mani Mani statue was influencing him to make all of his poor decisions, like kidnap Paula, for example. Paula rejoins us, and then we are told by the mayor that the statue would tell him to keep Ness away from the town's summers. He, of course, says, "Nah, gang, get in my heli and it'll take you there." So we head out, and just as we're about to head off, it flies off with Porky inside, sticking his head out and heckling Ness about being a half a step behind. Porky takes off, and Paula believes that we should return to Threed of all places. The Runaway 5 takes us there, and when we get off, they tell us that we have forgotten an important gadget. I thought this was some kind of situation where I had missed something, but no, you actually have to go back to where Jeff crashed the Skyrunner and some kids painted over the not working parts, I guess, or whatever. Jeff goes off into the runner and actually fixes the runner, and we take it back to Winters. We actually come here and backtrack through the cave we went through as Jeff to get our 4th Sanctuary Melody. We then return to the lab. Dr. Ardenauts finally fully fixes the runner to be able to take us to the resort town of Summers. This place has some of the best, priciest gear. Luckily, by this point, you probably have racked up quite a bit of a bank account balance from killing monsters. We go on what seems a little side quest here to help a sailor who's having love problems with his wife, who seems to be thinking too much. At least that's what I'm gathering from it. So we talk to his wife, and she gives us some magic cake. I would honestly say this is probably drugs. Ness and the party begin to trip balls, and then we begin our time with our 4th party member, Pooh. Pooh is the prince of the faraway city of Dalam, and we must take him through some of his final training. We arrive at his final meditative spot where he must stay in place and fight the spirit of his ancestor. In this fight, we don't actually do anything. The spirit will systematically break our arms, legs, and rip off our ears, and then finally, our eyes. This is probably my favorite character introduction as it gets quite philosophical as the spirit talks about us in this moment. Pooh completes his training and is restored only to have his master tell him to go to Ness and protect him and Pooh's new friends. We then teleport to Summers as Pooh and we get our final party member. There is no mention of the party tripping on acid-infused cake, but we now have our second party member who can use Psy pretty effectively. Pooh acts as your secondary Psy character. The only real difference between him and Paula is that he learns some different abilities. He also has the ability to heal and shield the party member much like Ness can. He doesn't use any weapons except one, good luck getting it, and has solely unique armor all to himself that you will spend the rest of the game trying to find. We take Pooh over to the museum and he translates some hieroglyphics for us, which tells us we need to go to a place called Scaraba to get some kind of item, the mystical Hawkeye. Before we get to the desert town, however, we get a phone call from Mr. Spoon. He tells us that he has found something amazing in the Fourside Museum. We head over and he wants us to get a signature from the singer in town named Venus. She signs a banana peel and we are allowed entry. This location is a sewer system found under Fourside and is actually the location of our 5th sanctuary, which I will tell you took me a long time to get through. The enemies here have quite a few effects that can make getting through it quite difficult. Not only that, but this is the beginning of a series of dungeons in this game that are literally just mazes. I'm not sure if this is to pad the game out or actually to provide some challenge, but either way, the dungeon sucks. Okay. We get the melody for Magnet Hill, and then we make our way back over to Summers. And hop on the ship over to Scaraba. It looks like the only reason why this is the only sailor to make the journey is because there is a massive kraken that has been taking care of other boats. The kraken is hyped up to be pretty difficult, but my party, as they were at the time, wiped it up pretty easily. After this, we arrive in Scarborough, which is similar to the desert before in Fourside, and will give you the potential sun sickness. However, there is another caterpillar here that you can grind, which will give you good XP. We make our way out of town into the desert and we find a pyramid. Completing a puzzle for the Sphinx, we are then able to actually enter the pyramid. This is another one of those dungeons where you can easily get lost or die due to the lack of items and lose the ability to heal your party. You fight various hieroglyphics that at first stay on the wall, but as you go ahead and cross their path, they actually go and attack you. We open the way through the pyramid slowly and we are able to get the Hawkeye with only minor difficulty. When we actually leave the pyramid, Pooh's master actually arrives and takes Pooh away to teach him another move, PK Star Storm. We wander the desert without our 4th friend and we find Dungeon Man, a literal guy that has turned himself into a dungeon. This is Brick Road. He is the guy who Jeff talked to in his intro section. Brick Road's dream was to always turn himself into a dungeon, and with some magic and the help of Dr. Ardonuts, it seems that he was successful. We enter Dungeon Man and make our way through, and honestly, if any of you have ever played Lisa the Painful, the signs we read and see inside Dungeon Man really actually remind me of Terry Hintz, which places signs very similarly. I could see this being the inspiration for such a thing. Making it through Dungeon Man, we actually talk to his face, which seems to be fused in the damn wall, and he says that he will follow us for a while. This is actually a great time for you to grind more levels, as Dungeon Man will help you fight enemies, but he doesn't actually require any party maintenance and actually does quite a bit of damage. He will eventually get stuck in some trees, unable to move, and so when we move on for a brief moment, we only realize that the next place we need to go actually requires us to get a submarine. Dungeon Man actually has inside of him the literal polar tang that the Heart Pirates use from One Piece, and so Jeff fixes it up and we make our way to the next area, a swamp known as Deep Darkness, a path that leads them to under the earth. Making our way through another maze-like area, we encounter Master Belch from Threed and must fight him to progress. Pooh actually arrives by aura farming and casting PK Star Storm at the enemy and rejoins the party, killing Master Belch in the process. We then arrive in probably my favorite town in the entire game, Tenda Village. These cute little guys are shy as and to get them to help you progress to the next area, you must actually help them overcome their shyness. As we begin our hunt to help them, Apple Kid calls us once more. He calls to tell us that Dr. Ardonuts and himself are working on a phase disorder. As he tells us, though, he actually gets kidnapped, as well as Dr. Ardonuts, by someone. We assume this to be Porky. We actually go back to the lab in Winters, and we are directed to the Stonehenge base, with the location of this place just being north of here. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I was actually getting a lot of fatigue at this point, mostly because of the various maze dungeons I had to deal with. This next section actually made me take a break for a couple days. We entered the Stonehenge base and we must fight a multitude of enemies on our way to get to the end. I'm going to bring up something that you might have experienced in your time playing this game. Every once in a while, you will come across enemies that will explode. When this happens, there is a high chance you will be dealt mortal damage. This means, if not healed fast enough, the party member will die. This location has an enemy that does this, and it will usually fight alongside other enemies. So the real strat here is to kill all the other enemies, then kill the exploding one, because once the battle is over, your HP will stop free falling like your granny who wants to feel alive again. This dungeon took me many tries, and I didn't beat it until I had took a few days to process my angry emotions towards this game like a big boy. When we get through this half of the dungeon, you actually find yourself in an underground base full of gold starmen and other enemies. If you're a patient enough gamer, you can actually grind starmen here for a special weapon, the only weapon that Pooh can use. It's actually called the Sword of Kings, and it has a 1 in 124 chance to drop according to the wiki, and I didn't really bother trying to do this. Good luck to any of you who want to try. Getting to the end of this base, we find a bunch of tubes of people who have been kidnapped, including, of course, Dr. Nuts and Apple Kid, as well as some other D-list characters from the game. Entering the next room, we fight Starman Deluxe, and funny enough, I almost one-shot killed it. Up to this point, you can actually find an item called Multi-Bottle Rocket that Jeff can use. This item technically has the highest output of damage in the game that you can produce. However, it is random, but the highest potential damage is 3,000. When you have the ability to buy these, I always keep about 5 or 6 of them on Jeff at all times. It actually makes quite a few of the fights in the game trivial if you know when to use them. Defeating Starman DX, we actually free everyone from the tubes, and Apple Kid tells us that the book to help our cute little Tenda friends is in the Onet library. We go and pick it up and bring it to the chief, who reads it to his villagers, and they become just a little more outgoing. The Tendas then allow us to enter the 7th sanctuary location. This one is actually pretty easy and straightforward. Once we get to the end, we actually see what is assumed to be the inner thoughts of Ness. We continue down this path and we actually fall a long way down into the Lost Underworld. This isn't hell or a place filled with souls. No, it's actually a large jungle with massive dinosaurs. When you walk around this location, you and the party appear a lot smaller, but you can still manage to recognize Tendas who live here, as well as little bastions of reprieve from the large dinosaurs. Oh, and the strange-looking boulder too. Speaking of rocks, we actually find a talking rock that reminds us of our quest to find the 8 melodies, and apparently he's been waiting for us this whole time. He actually talks to Ness about his destiny to defeat Gigas by harnessing the power of the 8 sanctuaries. He will give you hints on their locations if you haven't got them yet, and he will also direct you to the 8th and final one to the southeast of this location. This sanctuary is awful. A lot of the enemies here are tough, and not only that, but most of the sanctuary guardians up to this point are relatively simple fights. This one is not. Reaching the end of the sanctuary, you will find the Carbon Dog. This guy can be taken care of rather quickly, but he will then go into his second phase. That's right, this was Dark Souls before Dark Souls. The dog turns into the Diamondized Dog. This fight is deadly, as the dog has a chance of giving you the Diamondized effect. For the uninformed, when you get the Diamondized status, it treats your party member affected as if they were dead. It doesn't matter how much HP, it doesn't matter how much you try to heal them, they are just gone. To stack on top of this issue, the dog also uses a shield to reflect damage back at you. Honestly, this isn't that big of a deal, but this fight took me 2 or 3 tries before I was able to actually take care of him. When we record the last melody in this cave, Ness actually falls unconscious, and we are then taken to inside Ness's head. This place is Magicant, a place that has been created from all of Ness's dreams. It is told to us that Ness must destroy that evil that resides within himself, so he must cross the Sea of Eden and encounter his nightmares. This location to me was actually so relieving. It feels more like a way for you, the player, to take some time and relax from the absolute nightmare the game has been feeling for the last potentially 5 to 8 hours of playing the game. Mazes and impossibly tough monsters have been all that we have faced for the last quarter of the game, and to be able to just walk around and talk to characters that we have ran into in the game, or family, or even the different kids Ness hung out before all this mess. We actually even get to talk to Porky here. This Porky seems a lot more pitiful and less arrogant. Personally, I feel this might be a conversation that Ness and Porky have had at some point in the past, and Ness has been thinking of it recently since Porky's actions seem to further him away from this young man that acts like he may just need a friend to lead him in the right direction. We have all had friends that may not have been good for us, that may use us for the benefit of just feeling important or wanted, and Porky feels like one of those kinds of friends to me. But after seeing the conversation between him and Ness and Magicant, I feel slightly more pity for him, but only slightly. We make our way through these dreams and we grab a temporary party member simply known as Birdman. While he doesn't do much for us and he dies rather quickly, it kind of gives you a little comfort for a time while you traverse the Sea of Eden. We finally arrive to Ness's nightmare. This is portrayed as a Mani Mani statue. We must fight this nightmare, and once we do, Ness merges with the powers of the sanctuaries, and awakens more of his psi abilities. He also receives a cool 200,000 experience points, which will level you up a couple times. Ness then talks to himself a bit, stating that we must travel back to Saturn Valley. Our party wakes us up back at the 8th Sanctuary and then teleport back to Saturn Valley automatically. We actually see both Apple Kid and Dr. Nuts here. They also have brought the phase distorter to this location, as it seems the Mr. Saturns have been able to help make it work. There is, however, one missing piece, that, of course, being Zizanite, a rare mineral only found in space, specifically meteors. So we actually help out by going to Onett and grabbing the meteor piece. When we arrive, the place is completely under the control of Gigas, so instead of crows and dogs, we have to deal with ghosts of starmen and robots. Heading back to the valley after getting the piece, this is really a point of no return. Once we step inside, we will not be wandering Eagle Land as we know it now. We are taken to the Cave of the Past to fight Gigas. It seems, however, we find ourselves in the wrong point of time, so Dr. Nuts upgrades the phase distorter once more. The drawback to using this one, however, as told by Dr. Nuts, is that life forms are destroyed in the process of time travel. So, if we want to do this, Dr. Nuts has to put our souls inside of robots to survive the process. We do so, and we are immediately taken to the correct time and place to fight Gigas. We must make our way through his soldiers to get to his location. When we enter the crack at the end of the path, we find a rather uncomfortable sight. A path akin to entrails or guts before us. We walk up them for a time, and we actually get to the end where we find Gigas as well as Porky, now enclosed in some kind of machine. Porky informs us Gigas has become so powerful that he must be contained in what is known as the Devil's Machine. When we fight Porky and cause him to run away, he turns the Devil Machine off, revealing Gigas in his full form. As we fight Gigas, expending all of our resources and abilities, there is not much else we can do. We have Paula pray, and as she does this, she reaches out to everyone that we have ever come across in our long journey, and they begin to pray as well. Praying over and over, we eventually get everyone on Earth to reach out to our party to assist them. It seems to be not enough at first, but then she reaches out to us, the player, to have us lend them our power to defeat Gigas. All of this prayer reaches Gigas, and we realize that human emotion is its weakness. All this time, as Gigas loses his grip on reality, Porky gets scared and escapes through time travel. With Gigas finally disappearing, Eagle Land is restored. The souls of Ness and his party return back to their respective bodies, and they part ways with each other, heading back to their homes for a much-needed rest. After everything is done, credits and all, Picky, Porky's brother, brings a letter to Ness. Apparently, it's Porky goading Ness into coming to get him, and that's it. We finally finish the story of Earthbound. With this monumental task out of the way, I think it's safe for me to move on to the goods and bad section of this game. So I want to start this off by saying I am not a game critic. I've never claimed to have any status other than a dude on the internet who just wants to talk about things he finds interesting. I also want to say before we get into the meat of this section that I love Earthbound, even with its, in my opinion, flaws and difficulties. So I will start with the good stuff. I absolutely love the design of this game. Picturing this game at the time of its release tells me that this was a technological feat all in its own back then. The game's mechanics in this game is something that even modern RPGs today lack, and the story is a rare and unique experience that I think everyone should enjoy. The music is some of my favorite from games. Some has even made to meme status. Not only that, but the game has inspired countless other RPGs like it, and I've probably played a majority of those too. I feel the artwork of the areas, the characters, and the enemies, even in some of the most bland places, can ooze style and give its own unique flair. It feels like the teams behind this game really loved working on it, regardless of its trouble getting developed. I feel like I may come back to this game eventually for all of these great aspects, but I definitely need a long cooldown time from it. There's a lot of aspects of this game that frustrated me more than probably some of the hardest games I have ever played. Thinking about it now, I know for sure I have never beat this game as a kid, and coming back to it now, I can see why. The game does a good job at scaling the difficulty for a while, and then it just kind of slaps you in the face. There are a few places, like when Paula gets kidnapped, where if someone is not careful, they can just have a constant death loop. And there are a few places that this can actually happen, like when you're in the Lost Underworld and can't manage to get to a sanctuary boss at all because the enemies you fight beforehand drain you of all of your health and items, all for you to just leave and come back and have to fight them all over again. This was by far my biggest irritation with the game. Another issue I had was the lack of being able to buy certain things that resolve this headache. There is an item in the game called Life Noodles. These revive your party members who have died without actually having to spend money to revive them at a hospital. If you play this game, treat them as the most valuable item in the game until you can start buying a similar item that revives the party way late into the game. Another thing is, do not do the last parts of this game unless you know for sure you can manage the final bosses without the possibility of items. If you use all your items then die, it actually takes you to your last save location. However, anything you had used since the last time you saved will be gone. All those bottle rockets and food or healing items will be gone too. This can be a huge problem, say at the end of the game, for example, a place where you actually can't buy any items. Sure, you can heal at the machine as well as save, but you have to go back through all of Gigas' minions before you actually get to him, which can expend your already valuable resources. This was the main cause of me wanting to quit the game at some points, but through sheer spite and for completion's sake, I pushed through. Honestly, I'd say it's worth it. This game, regardless of how it annoyed me or frustrated me, really was able to pull on my heartstrings and make me feel for these characters and their journey to take down the greater evil. Sure, taking down the greater evil can be a bit of a cliche at this point, but there's always something that can fill one's own heart in these stories that makes them want to do good for their friends, family, or even the world at large. I've always been fond of stories where the game has changed someone's path or journey in the life for their better. Take my Twisted Metal video a while back. Someone said because of the psychology of the characters in that game, it caused them to want to be a psychologist. I'd say for myself, Earthbound taught me at a very young age that you don't do good for the fame or to benefit yourself. You do it because you genuinely want to help those around you. For what this game has provided me personally, I'd say Earthbound would have gotten a 4 out of 5, but because of the lessons it taught and the sheer emotion put into the making of this game, it's another perfect score for me, a 5 out of 5. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, and if you like this video, leave a comment. Did you ever have the chance to play Mother 2/Earthbound? What is your favorite place or location in the game? Make sure to let me know. If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you hit subscribe. I release these videos once a month, and if you would like to talk to me about these videos or any other games or pieces of media that fill you with nostalgia, you can follow me over on Twitch so you can talk to me when I'm live. I'll see you next time. Peace.